Hello everyone, and welcome back to D Squared Stories, an audio fiction podcast bringing you short serialized weekly stories. Well, at least that's what we normally do. This week, as a hiatus from our multiple chapter stories, I'll be presenting the first volume of what I'm calling The Cutting Room Floor. The name, derived from an expression referring to parts of movies that don't make the final cut, applies here as these are all ideas I had that I couldn't quite stretch out into a multi-chapter story. The theme for Volume 1 is about the double-edged sword of our fast-evolving technology. Today's story is about Pan. Pan is a live streamer who engages in an activity very popular in the near future setting of this story, which is 24-hour live streams. However, if you can believe it, there might be a few drawbacks to having everything you do put out for the whole world to see. As a side note before we start, this story has some psychological horror elements, particularly regarding being stalked and creeped on. While I can assure you up front that nothing explicit or graphic will happen, if you are sensitive to that, I fully understand if this is one you want to skip. With that out of the way, let's get started with this next story titled 24-Hour 365 Livestream. The sun crept in through the blinds on this peaceful Saturday morning. I rubbed my eyes and rolled out of bed. I did a few morning stretches to keep the body limber, and I took a big swig of water from the refillable water bottle I left at my bedside. I slowly walked over towards the blinds and undid them, looking at the beauty of my backyard lit up in the dawn. The birds were peacefully poking about in the dirt, and the squirrels seemed as active as ever. I looked on at this scene with wonder for a while, before finally taking a deep sigh and saying, "Good morning, world." Then I turned to the other side of my room, towards the camera mounted on the ceiling that followed me as I walked out of bed, the same one that had been focused on me all night while I slept. I gave a little wave to it and said, "And good morning, chat." My name is Pan, and I am what is known as a 24/365 live streamer. Live streaming, of course, has been all the rage since internet speeds and platforms could accommodate it. The reason for this massive success, in the face of much higher budget, higher star power productions, has been chalked up by many to authenticity. Unlike the PR firm polished celebs or the fake pre-rehearsed late-night interviews, most live streaming was just a guy or gal sitting in a chair, talking, playing video games, or reacting to something. With some exceptions, people were rarely there for whatever riveting activity the person was doing, but they were there because the person was interesting, funny, or maybe a bit unhinged. Capturing that personality live, uncensored, felt so much realer than anything else you could see on TV or in the movies. Of course, we live in a competitive marketplace economy, though, and there's only so much authenticity you can squeeze out of a person by watching them play Fortnite on end or react to funny videos. That paved the way for IRL streaming, going out and actually doing things in real life, and capturing more authentic reactions of people not involved in the production. The inevitable arms race for the genuine, unfiltered content eventually culminated in 24/365 live streams. The concept is pretty easy to understand, of course. You live stream every single moment of your life, the audience having a constant, never-wavering window into every single second. The logistics of actually making it happen, though, that is a little trickier than I think you would imagine, at least if you want it done right. I walked over to my dresser and pulled my clothes out for the day. After looking everything over, I was really stuck between this white top with a blue floral pattern and a red shirt with thin horizontal stripes. I walked back and forth between the two options I had laid out. The camera in the corner of the room was programmed to follow me and keep me centered in the frame every moment I was in its range. I walked over to my computer where the live stream was set up and started a poll in the chat. The lively chatters were sending messages almost faster than I could read them. "Good morning, beautiful. That red top looks gorgeous. How about no top, sweetheart?" The last message was only on screen for a split second before the moderators deleted it and banned that person. I tried not to let things like that bother me. It was the nature of the beast that creeps would be drawn to a live stream where they could see a 23-year-old girl's every single moment. So long as the mods kept the ones who could not stay quiet about it at bay, I felt okay with it. After all, there's a definite correlation between weirdos and those who donate large sums of money to live streams. The red top was on the verge of winning when, just before the poll closed, there was an influx of donations for the blue top. Every $5 in a donation counted as a vote of its own, and it seems the blue floral contingent successfully bided their time to flip the vote count in a last-minute surge. "Blue floral top it is, then," I said. I took the clothes in with me to the bathroom adjoining my room. When I closed the door, I was out of range of my bedroom camera. Now is as good a time as any to talk about the bathroom camera. Because yes, there is one. Unlike the bedroom one, the bathroom camera is fixed, just giving a wide shot of the entire narrow bathroom. Well, I should say the top half of it. The camera was perfectly fixed and calibrated so that wherever I stood, only my head and occasionally my neck would be visible. I could also mute the audio from my phone, which I frequently did, depending on the situation. I had to have my bathroom fully redone to have a camera installed that could meet these exact specifications. My older one was wider, and because of that, if I walked deep enough into it, a little bit more of me could be seen if I was not mindful. This was bad, partially because of the aforementioned creeps, but really the issue was a little slip-up like that would violate the platform's terms of service, and I would be suspended. Just like that, my whole livelihood, which easily paid for this remodel with no sweat off my back, would be completely gone. I got into the shower, and despite not having my laptop or phone, I could feel the donations pouring in. Part of this felt demeaning. I felt almost like a cam girl in these moments. Not that I have anything against them. It would be somewhat hypocritical of me to cast stones at people for doing exactly what I do, just because they showed 6 more inches of their body. It was just a line I personally never wanted to cross. I felt so close to it whenever I was here, and I think so did my audience, which is why the donations poured in. That was just the cost of business, though. Other streamers did this, and if I was not willing to, my chat would go to someone else. In a format meant for full transparency and hyper-authenticity, this was just what you did. I finished showering and put on my clothes and got ready for the day. I walked down the stairs. I could see the moment the camera in my upstairs hallway picked me up, and when I was down, I saw the red light on the living room camera blink on as well. Once in the kitchen, the next well-placed camera and motion sensor locked onto me. It was an expensive ordeal, getting all these cameras installed. Programming them to work properly was a challenge in its own right. It was not all that uncommon that I had to switch back to my phone app and do everything manually while waiting for the maintenance person to fix them. I let chat pick my breakfast. They picked cereal and strawberries. As I sat eating, I thought about how strange all this was. At first, when this started, I was so engaged with everyone who was watching. I was constantly talking to them, telling them my inner monologue. Over time, though, I just ran out of things to say to fill the space and only talked when something interesting was happening, or during a time I had specifically set up for talking and activities. It happened slowly, and I worried it would have an impact on my viewership, and it did at first, but over time it plateaued. There was just a constant flux of people, always watching me. It was odd, but it made paying the bills easy. I was chowing down on a cereal that was just one of the many sponsors I had integrated into my daily life, and who paid top dollar to continue being a part of my options and repertoire. I wondered how often people really bought some of the products I sold. If some of them were willing to watch me, hours a day, be a part of my life like this, it must have been a lot who were equally willing to buy the same cereal as me, the same clothes as me. I noticed myself drifting off into thought before making myself smile and wink at the camera. I got up from the table and got ready to get into my car to do some shopping. I have a camera set up to just show my face during the drive. I was always incredibly careful not to give too much info as to where I was going, or more importantly, where I lived. I did not want people who were obsessed to the point of watching my every moment to have the chance to upgrade to a screen-free view. The camera I brought with me as I got out of the car worked similarly to the car cam, blurring my background so nothing could be made out about where I was. At the store, I picked out some new bed sheets. This was a part of a donation goal to put together a redoing my bedroom stream. I went over to the self-checkout, trying to involve as few unwitting participants in my stream as possible. Then I made the drive back home, stopping at a drive-thru for an iced coffee on the way. When I got home, I could not quite place it, but something felt off. I squinted at the door, still slightly cracked. "Hey, did I forget to close that all the way?" I asked to my viewers. One of the greatest perks of the 24/365 was getting thousands of additional memory assistants to help me remember things like this. At first the chat was fiercely split on whether or not I fully closed the door, with some insisting yes, and others crying that I did not. It took a while before the vigorous archivists found the exact timestamp to double-check. The verdict was not entirely clear. It seemed like I had closed it, but the click could not be heard, so it could have crept back open from the wind. I took that as good enough for me to stop my internal freakout. After all, I just went through saying all the work and effort I put into keeping people from finding out where I was. I went back inside and then hauled the sheets upstairs to my room. I went to use my bathroom before I would get started on the redecorating plans. I was just about to sit down when something struck me. I stared, a bit jarred by what I was looking at. I pulled out my phone to look at the live stream to double-check I was not hallucinating, and I was not. The camera, the one fixed to be constantly pointing upwards, neck and above, had slightly shifted downwards. It was not a dramatic shift, just a little below my neckline now, but it was undoubtedly a move. My breath almost caught in my throat. I thought about ending the stream now and calling 911. I thought about running out of my house and getting somewhere as safe as I could. I tried to regain my composure, though. The last thing I needed was a full-on meltdown over nothing to be immortalized in my live stream forever. I carefully walked over to the camera and pressed up on it. To my slight horror, it adjusted upwards back to the original angle it was meant to be at. I slowly left the bathroom and quietly walked around the house. I don't mean to panic anyone, but I think someone might be in here. I'm just going to walk around and make sure no one is. I slowly opened door after door and no one was in there. I checked my closets, little crawl spaces that a freak would have to contort their bodies to fit in. But at this point, I could not put that past them. After a few nerve-wracking minutes of this, I had to stop and try to relax myself by checking my chat messages. It was like a tidal wave of people all saying the same thing. Check the cameras. I almost hit myself on the forehead, I felt so stupid. This house was stuffed full of so many cameras, you could not even step anywhere in here without being found by one of them. I went upstairs into my computer and pulled up all the feeds for all the entrances to my house and my room. I watched them all over at 4 times speed and never saw anyone or anything moving. I let out a sigh of relief as we got towards the timestamp where I would have returned home. However, then the strangest thing happened. For some reason, the camera in my room turned away from the doors and towards the window, before turning back shortly after I entered the room. My heart sank in my chest. The only reason the camera should move should just be to focus on me, or if I manually took control of it. Though, I suppose much like I adjusted the bathroom camera by hand, someone could have moved it that way. That was impossible, though. I just watched and no one came in or out of the house. It had to be a quirk of the software or something like that. I tried putting it out of my mind as I went about my day. I started up a video game to take my mind off it and give something else for the chat to latch onto. Since I had mentioned the possible intruder, they were having vitriolic arguments with each other over whether or not it was nothing or something nefarious. I needed that to stop, so I pulled up something to distract them. It was a bit exhausting having a group of people provide commentary on every single moment of my life. I was often told to stop reading the comments and messages, but that was simply just not how all of this worked. If I wanted to continue my comfortable life of just being myself as a job, I had to make sure I was not doing anything that was causing agitation or worse, people to get bored and stop tuning into the stream. After not too long of playing, I realized I had never used the bathroom because of the fright of the camera. I went back in to do so. Just out of paranoia, I checked to see if the camera had moved again. And to my dismay, it had. Without commenting on it like last time, I just locked the door, scanned the room, opened the closet, and adjusted it back up. I hope to do this all indiscreetly enough to keep the audience from going back to commenting on it constantly. Without even checking the messages, I felt in my gut that I had failed to do so. Part of me also felt relief. No one was in this bathroom, and I would have noticed someone enter or leave from my room if they had gone in. This was just a loose screw or something like that. Something was not holding the camera in its fixed position. That was a much easier proposition to fix than some home intruder. After only a few hours after I called for him, a truck with the label, Manny's Handyman, arrived in my driveway. A charming man, named Emmanuel, emerged from the truck. From my computer, I switched the cam to the front door one, just in time for him to wave at it. "Hello, chat," Emmanuel said. Chat burst into a chorus of "Hello, Emmanuel," and other messages excited for his arrival. Emmanuel, who had nearly set up this entire house's camera system, and any other renovations I needed to make the streaming experience more seamless, was immensely popular with chat. Most people who I had explained my new life to were less enthusiastic to be a part of it. In a world of more provocative and intense live streamers, there was a bit of a stigma around being part of a stream, especially a 24/365. Emmanuel was one person who did not feel this way. From the moment I told him he was popular with my audience, I think he became a little infatuated with his small slice of internet fame. Having come over with his parents to this country at a young age, he never knew much aside from hard work. I went down to meet him at the door. "So, you say you have a screw loose, Miss Opticon?" he asked. "I don't think you are crazy at all." I smiled, and I knew the chat was having a blast with it too. For someone who spoke English as a second language, he was always quick with a joke. His incredible charisma, along with his work ethic, made him quite successful as a small-time businessman. His desire to be liked helped drive business, and conversely made him quite interested in the attention he got from chat. I never saw him so happy as when I showed him the strings of messages saying how much they liked him. I did worry about the kind of effect that it could have on his life if he ever got the wrong idea from it, and left his lucrative, stable business for the fickle and heartless attention of the internet. I took him upstairs with me to show him the bathroom camera. It had not moved again since the last incident, but I just wanted to make sure there was no issue that caused it to move again. Emmanuel just quickly pulled out his toolbox and drilled a screw right directly underneath the camera. "Probably should have done that from the beginning," he said. "Oh, was it missing something to hold it in place?" I asked. He shook his head. "It should not wiggle like that, With these cameras I should have, how do you say it? Physically locked it in place. I tilted my head a little. What do you mean? Emmanuel looked a bit concerned at this, as if not wanting to say anything. Well, you know how I do my best to do research, he said. To get the most secure cameras. However, they all have, weak spot. V-word? I looked blankly at him, not knowing what he meant. I looked at my phone to see if chat had any help. A couple of people were responding with the word vulnerabilities. Vulnerabilities, that's it, he said. A hacker, if they got in, might be able to control the camera. They could have moved your camera remotely. My eyes widened a bit. I was so hung up on the idea of someone being physically in my house, I had never stopped to consider that they could be in it virtually, moving around the cameras as they saw fit. I thought back to the weird glitch that seemed to occur in the camera in my room. It occurred moments before I went into the bathroom. Could that have been a test of their capabilities? The idea made me shudder, but thinking on it, I could not place why. Outside of that one particular location, every part of my house and my life was an open book. People could watch me sleep, watch me eat, see my face at just about any given point on any day. Why did the idea of someone being able to slightly more influence what they could see make me feel so, vulnerable? I could run a, diagnostic test, Emmanuel said, breaking my trance. Reset everything so we can set it up again. We would have to disconnect your internet for a while. I immediately looked down at my phone. I was met with a bunch of messages with deep displeasure at this idea. I was supposed to do an unboxing of fan gifts that had been sent to me later. A lot of people expressed that they had sent something for this exact day, so that they would be able to watch live. I waffled back and forth on whether or not it was fair to reschedule it on them. I don't know, I said. Maybe another time. After all, as long as that one is bolted in place, what does it really matter if someone can see through my other ones? Everyone can do that. Emmanuel looked a bit concerned, trying to convince me. It could be more than just that. All your appliances and things are linked through the same control system. You don't want someone in there. I took his words into consideration. It was just an unboxing stream. They would get over it. I had to take the stream down from time to time for maintenance anyway. Internet or power outages had lasted longer than this probably would. I braced myself for the disappointment of my fans when I went to look back in the chat. And that is when I saw something else. Kind of weird how insistent Emmanuel is being. Why is bro trying so hard to get you alone with the cameras offline? If anyone could have hacked into them, it was probably the guy who installed them. Did anyone notice his accent and speech change there? Either the two of them are banging, or he really wants to be. Paranoia crept back into my mind. That was impossible, though. Emmanuel had been nothing but kind to me ever since I met him. There was no way he was up to anything nefarious like this. Nonetheless, I was rattled now, and felt untrusting of everyone. Another far shallower thought ran through my brain, which is that people seemed to think he and I could be seeing each other. This could be a death sentence for the career of any single female streamer like myself. Like it or not, part of this parasocial play that we were all required to put on required some suspension of disbelief. Guys were not as inclined to send money to girls who were taken. Beyond that, it would absolutely shatter their image of Emmanuel as well. He would not want to know that everyone hated him now for such a dumb reason. Sorry, Emmanuel, I said. It will have to be another time. I said this firmly and started ushering him downstairs and out the door to leave no room for further discussion. He seemed sad, even hurt a little. He clearly did not understand what he had done wrong that caused this escalation. I hoped that he would never know. I saw him get into his truck and drive off towards the setting sun. I went back up into my room and pulled over a huge bag of boxes to start to open. I pulled out the first one. It was small. I opened it up to find it was an expensive lavender perfume. I gasped and bounced up and down on the floor as I sat there. "Oh my gosh, thank you, Hippo Joe 4, I said. "This is one of my favorite scents. How did you know?" I hated the smell of lavender. It made me sick to my stomach. I could not give off the appearance of being even the slightest bit ungrateful, though. Even if I reacted mildly disinterested in anything I had received from a loyal viewer, it could be all they needed to stop watching, sending, and donating altogether. I opened up the next one. It was a pretty gold necklace. I worked to put it on right away. "Aw, Cucumber Sam, this is so cute. This is too much," I said. It really was too much. These types of gifts I felt almost uncomfortable accepting. This was like a middle-class husband's anniversary gift to his wife level of purchase. The level of devotion was frightening. If they had known, someday, that I had every intention of pawning these off once I was done streaming, How much would that hurt them? How much space in their mind did I occupy that they felt like this was a normal thing to do? Which one of these people felt that they were so attached to me that they got into my system and felt empowered to control the very cameras in my house? I shook my head to loosen the thought as I finished putting on the necklace. I opened a new box. It was a thin, almost book-shaped package. When I opened it up, there was a small computer tablet inside. "Oh, this is so neat and versatile. I love it," I said. I had talked a few weeks back about getting this specific tablet to make some of the edits that I posted to social media easier. This person had done their homework and paid attention to me when doing their shopping. It was a little strange, though. This was not in the box of the manufacturer, just wrapped in bubble wrap and sent over. A label on the top right of it said 1111, which I correctly assumed to be the passcode. There was no indication or note saying who it was from. When I unlocked it, I stared as it opened straight to email. My smile faded. The latest email, which had come in just a moment ago, was titled, "Surprise." There was something that made me feel weirder than the fact that someone was directly watching me open it and sent that email at that exact time. It was the fact that the email came through because the device was already connected to my Wi-Fi, without me having done anything to connect it. I hesitantly opened the email. It read, "You really are an idiot. How vain do you have to be to put your own stupid constant live stream over your own safety? Someone as stupid as you doesn't deserve to have all the things you have. I'm going to make sure they're all taken away from you." I carefully eyed the camera and put on a fake smile. This was clearly an online troll, an agitator trying to get a rise out of me, and I could not give them the satisfaction. I simply had to just pretend that everything was fine, and then there was nothing they could do to hurt me. What a great gift. Thank you so much. Classic stupid female. I nearly jumped out of my skin as I heard the slightly disguised male voice. I panicked. I looked around the room, under my bed, trying to figure out where I had missed the intruder after all. After a few seconds that felt like hours of staring, I heard the voice again. "How does someone as stupid as you get away with having so much? It's not fair." I looked up. It was coming from the camera in my room. My heart was racing. The camera models installed had the ability to be spoken through from my app that controlled them. I had never enabled this feature, though, and it clearly was not me who was using it. "There you go. Now you're getting it. Look up at the camera for us." I stared dumbstruck at the disembodied voice from the camera. You're nothing but a freak and a pervert. Leave me alone." "I'm neither of those two things. I'm just fed the hell up," it said. "Do you know what it's like to work a real job, physical labor, 5 days a week, 6 if I want enough to be able to pay rent and utilities, just to get on my phone in bed to see a girl get paid just for being pretty and existing?" I walked over to my computer. I was going to end the stream. I appeared to be locked out of my own devices now. "Listen to me, stupid female. I spent months learning how to make this happen, and you're not just going to ignore me like you do all your other viewers." I snarled at him. "I get it. You're an incel. Get over yourself. You're probably just making all this up, and you can't do anything aside from taunt me with this technology." "Oh, I really hoped you would say something just like that. Take a look at your screen." I saw that the stream had cut over to the front door camera. Across the street, a silhouette, just barely illuminated by the streetlight nearby, stood and just stared at my house. I felt on the verge of a complete panic attack. I thought I might freeze up there and then, but I could not let that happen. I had to stay calm, be rational. I pulled out my phone. Before I could switch over to the dial pad and call for help, I noticed the messages in chat. They were all so angry and hostile towards me. "Seriously? This is what we're doing now?" I used to like Pam because she showed us her real life and didn't do stupid gimmicks like this. Holy crap, this is the fakest creepypasta nonsense I've ever seen. I growled lowly. "This isn't fake." I looked angrily at all these messages and heard the hacker laughing through the camera speaker as he saw my frustration. I got my head on straight and called 911. 911, what's your emergency? Someone is outside my house and is... I suddenly had my eardrums assaulted as the volume of the camera went way up and I heard his voice on the other end. No, dude, tell them there's like a bear. It'd be so funny to tell them there's a bear." "Excuse me. I hope you know it's a crime to prank call this number." No, this isn't a prank. He's just... "I hope you know it's a crime to prank call this number," it mocked loudly back at her. Driven to rage and frustration, I threw my phone right at the camera. It successfully seemed to damage the camera as sparks flew from the direct hit. But now my phone was seemingly malfunctioning too. I felt like an idiot. Why of all things did I throw that? I suddenly heard the doorbell ring. I looked up to the computer screen. The door camera was still fixed on the other side of the street, but no one was there. No help was on the way. There was nowhere to even hide, as every single location in my house he could see. There was only one choice. I ran down the stairs, almost tumbling down them in my frenzy. I ran into the kitchen and pulled out the biggest knife I had. I stared at the door, holding it between me and the stalker. I carefully stepped my way closer to the door. "Oh, that's a nice knife, but do you think you're going to be faster than a bullet, moron?" I ignored him. I just continued to step towards the door. I heard a loud banging on the other side, followed by a voice. "Open up right now," the voice demanded. It was a different one than the one I heard over the camera. Dang it, he had an accomplice? He was sitting somewhere probably as safe as all could be, and his other freak was at this door, ready to do who knows what to me. "I hope you're ready," he taunted through the cameras. I grabbed a rolling pin from the kitchen and smashed it through the nearest camera, doing anything I could to get rid of his irritating voice. It made a couple of loud bangs and sounds before it finally fell to pieces. I heard more banging on the door, but this time different, as if someone was forcing their way in and kicking the door in. "That's it, we're coming in now." The door buckled against the weak hinges, and I saw as it nearly caved in. Ignoring the use of the word "we" as more mind games, I clutched the knife tightly and dropped the rolling pin. I saw the next assault on the door. Based on how it barely held, I knew it was only good for one more kick. I waited, having followed the rhythm. Once I knew the next kick was coming, I charged for the door, knife in hand, lunging straight for whoever was on the other side. When the door came through, I saw who was on the other side. I stumbled as I tried to stop myself, not doing enough to halt the momentum so that all the men in SWAT gear holding guns pointed at me could see, when the door came through, was a crazy woman, charging at them with a knife. Thank you so much for listening to this story from The Cutting Room Floor, Volume 1. If you enjoyed, please rate the podcast, give it a like on YouTube, or share with someone who you think might also enjoy. You can stay up to date with The Cutting Room Floor by following us on social media. That'll be D² Stories on just about any of the major platforms. Thanks again for listening, and I hope to have you listen again next week.